So I was super shocked to see how many people were thinking about leaving the ABA field, kind of like how I did. So I thought that this would be a great time for me to talk about why I personally decided that ABA wasn't right for me at this moment and why I decided to move into, a totally different field in general. So first things first, the main reason why I felt like I couldn't stay in this field anymore was just like the structure of this industry in general. So in terms of being a BCBA, the only main places that you can really work in is in a public school, a private school, a clinic, or in-home therapy. And in my experience, I've done part-time in-home therapy, full-time in-home therapy, a private school, and a clinic. And there were just so many issues with all those settings. So for in the private school, it was like nice, but you just didn't get paid a lot. That was my best experience in a private school. I just didn't get paid as much as I wanted to. In a clinic, it was just, I don't know, it was just not for me. It felt like a time zone warp sucking trap that was not good for me. And then in the in-home therapy field, it gets really stressful because even if you're salaried, your pay is not guaranteed and your role is not guaranteed. So in the in-home therapy sector, you have to meet your billable hours weekly. So like if your salary is like X, Y, and Z for 20 hours minimum and you don't meet your 20 hours minimum, you're in trouble. You potentially run the risk of losing your salary and or owing the money back to your company because you haven't fulfilled your end of the contract, right? And it's like, okay, but clients cancel, parents cancel, therapists cancel, etc. What are you supposed to do? And it's a question that has no answer, that not even your employers will give you an answer for. Or for example, like if you're full-time and they're giving you the caseload and they don't give you enough to fill those caseload, who's at fault for not giving you those hours? Maybe it's them, maybe it's you, depending on who your employer is and how kind they are. But it's like, that's a lot of stress on your end that you don't want to have. You know what I mean? Like, I would wake up crying because I'd be like, I am 2 hours short this week, but I've been 2 hours short every single day this month. That means that like I owe them 8 hours of service that I just can't make up. And then that just compounds and builds. And then eventually it's like, okay, now you owe them 100 hours. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? How am I supposed to make that up, right? And then you end up overworking yourself trying to fulfill those hours. And it's just a horrible cycle. And it's like that fear of that, like, even though you're salaried, your pay is still not stable and your pay is still not guaranteed. Not to mention that sometimes your medical insurance is also tied to that minimum amount. So if you don't meet that minimum amount, you don't get medical insurance. And then it's like, then what do you do, right? Like, it's just so, you just don't feel protected as an employee, and it's just really stressful. It's not worth it for me, you know. We went over private school, we went over in-home therapy. If you go to public school, it's like you're a district-wide BCBA. You're used all throughout the district. So you can have up to 40 kids under your like care, and it's like, oh my God, I can't even like take care of like 7 or 8, and you want me to take care of 40? That's insane. Not to mention that you have to like do stakeholder buy-ins and like convince the teachers to like follow your advice and recommendations, because sometimes teachers can get really defensive and they're like, no, I know how it works. I don't need your help. I don't need your opinion. And it's like, I don't want to deal with that. And then not to mention that the pay is also a little bit lower as well. And the way that some school systems work, well, at least in New Jersey, it's like if you want to grow your salary, you need to stay at a school for a really long time, like just in order to get your pension too. But let's say you stayed at a school for 6 years, you make $100,000. If you want to move to a different school, you're going to be bumped back to year one salary range of like maybe $50,000. Even though you've had 6 years of experience already, you're bumped back down to level 1 because you're moving to a whole new school. And it's like, you want me to commit to a school that I don't even know if I like yet? That's insane to me too. So I just really felt like there were no options for me in terms of like workplaces. Like, I've explored them all and I just couldn't find one that really fit my needs. Another major issue that I have in this field is that there is just no real room for growth. Like, if you think about it, it's like you become an ABA therapist, then an RBT, then a BCBA, and then what's after the BCBA? A manager, a owner, a director? But then it's like, do I even want that stress if I can't even be happy at a BCBA level? Like, if I'm already stressed out at a BCBA level as is, like, how am I going to deal with everything else? But then it's like, okay, if I don't really want to achieve the manager, the director role, then what else can I do to increase my earning potential? Nothing. And it's like, well, then are you telling me I'm capped at 26? Like, my salary's capped at 26? Because that's ridiculous. And I'm pretty sure that, like, it's really difficult to jump from job to job. So, and you don't want to jump from job to job. So there's no room for a real salary increase. And sometimes in-home therapies, you don't get a promotion. I mean, you just don't get a promotion. Then what happens, right? The overwhelming pressure to fix everyone's problems, and like the pressure of knowing that my actions, my decisions, and my choices were directly affecting people's quality of life. And it was like really hard. I'd come in every day, every week to the families, and they'd be like, Brittany, like, you know, this is happening, what do I do? How do I do this? How do I do that? And it's just like, I don't have the answers to everything. I'm not an omnipresent being. I don't know everything. And even with the training that I do have, it's very limited, you know? Like, I don't have training with dual diagnoses. I don't have trainings with this. I don't have trainings with that. I can't help you. I don't know what ADHD looks like in autism. I'm sorry. Like, that's just not something I've been exposed to and or know. And it's very lonely. And if you're in a company where you don't feel supported, it's even more lonely. And then every step of the way, every decision that you make, you're wondering, am I doing the right thing? Do I have the right answers? But as the problems keep coming flowing in week after week after week, you just starting to feel like you're drowning. And I just felt like it got to the point where I was sometimes like dissociating in like the middle of conversations because of how stressed I would get from the pressure of it all, right? And don't get me wrong, it was like I always looked for the most evidence-based treatment. I always did my research. I always looked at the journals. I always made sure to talk with others and reach out for help in case of situations I was really unsure about, and or passed off the case to someone else because I did not feel comfortable with taking. But it's a really horrible feeling when you're that stressed out. And when I started dissociating from conversations, and you know, not like severe, like I just kind of blacked out, but it was just like I realized I started getting all numb all over. I was like, this is a serious issue to my mental health. This is a serious stressor for me, and obviously this is not good for my well-being because this is not how I want to cope. This is how I've never coped with stress. So it was a big telltale point for me that it was time to look into something different where I didn't feel this pressure as much, right? Because I just was like, I just felt like I had to fix everything, and I couldn't. Another reason is how guilty I would feel for taking vacations. Like, I could never take a vacation because I'd be so scared. I'd be like, oh my God, what the whole program is gonna look like. Oh my God, but these kids really need me. I can't leave them for a week. If they don't have supervision for 1 week, they're gonna crumble. And it was like horrible. It would get to the point where I would plan my vacations around my clients' vacations, and even then, I still wouldn't take a vacation. So yeah, it just like there's nothing to do to prevent burnout at all, nothing at all. And finally, the last thing that's kind of pushing me this way is ABA is just changing. There's a huge movement going on where a lot of adults with autism are coming out speaking about how ABA was really injurious to them, and it really traumatized them. And obviously, I don't think that the ABA that I practice is that way. I try to practice compassion a lot and choice a lot and free will and you know, try to honor my clients' wishes, their boundaries, etc. But a lot of people see a very negative view. I know a lot of SLPs that I work don't like working with ABAs. I go on TikTok, there's a lot of SLPs that make stuff, and they're like, I don't make anything for ABA therapists, like stickers or stuff like that, because I don't believe in ABA. And it's really crazy to see. But also, ABA is a science-driven field. But here we are implementing things, these new concepts like PFAs, SBTs, and it's really confusing because PFAs and SBTs have no measurable, objective behavioral definitions to it. Like, for example, for a PFA, it's like, you know, you let your kid have a break, and then you have to allow And then once they're in a good spot where they're happy, relaxed, and engaged, then you come back in with the antagonizing stimulus. And it's like, well, what do you mean by what's happy, relaxed, and engaged? And they're like, oh, I don't know, you just have to feel it in your gut. I'm like, that's literally not ABA, but okay. But it's this new wave that's coming in. I'm like, I don't understand it. This is completely different of what I've always known it to be. And then I recently met a BCBA, and she was like, yeah, I'm trying to practice more compassion. And instead of doing hand over hand prompt, I'm letting the kid put their hand over my hand while I guide them through it. And I'm like, then that's not a hand over hand prompt. But I'm getting so confused now because I'm just like, where is this field going and which direction is it going towards? Because everyone's doing one thing, and that's not what ABA is traditionally. So I just feel very lost in that sense. So don't get me wrong, I love ABA, I love behavior analysis, I love working with the population, and I love making a difference in the lives of my clients and their families. But just at this moment, I just feel super confused with where the field's going. I'm not really sure of who I am as a clinician itself. And at this age, I just feel like I really want a little bit more out of my life in terms of work-life balance and what my company and what my job provides for me, both intrinsically and extrinsically. You know, I want to get raises. I want to be able to take work trips. I want to be able to have a good work-life balance and not be so stressed out all the time. And that's just not something that I can find at the moment with behavior analysis, and that's where I'm going to take my break. But I'm still going to continue with my CEUs, and I think I'm going to take a part-time case too as well to really continue practicing my behavior analysis skills, because I don't want to turn my back on this field forever. I don't. I want to one day maybe come back because I do love what ABA does. I do love the change that it has and the impact that it has. But at this point, I just have to take a break for my well-being and for my clients' well-beings and everything like that. So, you know, if you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you're kind of having the same thoughts or you're going through the same path that I did, and I just want to tell you good luck. I hope this video kind of either affirms what you already feel, or, you know, gives you a little bit more perspective. But whatever you do, good luck. Do what's best for you. And I'll keep you guys updated on how my decisions go. Thanks.